Mood just went up like a notch. This
Of
whole week,
course.
I've been just feeling it on everyone's little messages.
Everyone
Everyone's
wants to clean and hump and
Oh my
wait,
God,
I said
yes.
hump.
I've been cleaning.
honk. Hump means to work hard.
Yeah,
it does.
everyone wants to get their grind on. We'll just say it like that.
Don't get me in trouble with Meegs. Hi, Meegs.
Hi, Meeks.
What's up, guys?
Oh,
And no ball talk today. I got in trouble from her for all that.
oh my goodness. Oh,
Okay,
I'm beating.
what's that?
You should see my brow action. I'm the best brow beater ever.
yeah.
Oh, dude, you are like John Belushi with brows.
I can't move mine because I have Botox, so
You do?
Yeah.
Do you guys?
I can't really do the one. I can't really do too
Can
many
you make 'em
facial
swim?
expressions.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So
Are we doing a mic check right now?
yeah,
That
I
brow
think
beat
so.
actually
Mic
going
check
up.
1 2.
Can we
1,
turn
2.
Meegs up a little because I can barely hear the young
Yo.
lady.
Yo,
Okay. So, where were we?
we were
Everybody
in the
being
midst
fabulous.
of crazy findings.
What was the last notable thing you remember us talking about? First thing comes to
CERN.
mind. CERN. All right, we're gonna
Yeah.
put a little closure on CERN today.
Okay.
We'll go past that. We'll go past that. Okay.
We
One
actually
thing
have
I hope we get
operations.
to today is what's going on back there?
I don't want to know. I've heard some things. I was hoping that like your voice would cover it up.
Oh,
Hey,
he's checking
could
the
you-
volume.
Could you
Oh, I got you.
Checking
Got
the
you.
volume. It's okay.
All right. So
Technical.
last week we were
Technical
talking
stuff.
about whether one of our taglines was removing truth's many layers.
Yeah.
Right? We
Yeah.
remember that?
The layers thing caught me off guard.
Well,
I thought that
so
it
you caught
wasn't
it.
true because of it.
Well, you caught it. Get Meegs talking. Hey, Meegs, can you hear us?
Yeah.
We're not cool like Shaltis is. So last week, those were some specific words that were mouthed by Neil Armstrong. I'm hoping to get there today.
Okay.
So hang loose on that one. But let's put some closure on CERN because we've been touching on CERN for a couple of shows now. So
So
we all have a decent idea about what might really be going on. Have you guys now heard from enough like physicists and scientists to
understand,
to
yeah.
have your eyebrow raised? Like what is really going
Yeah,
on?
but I already
there?
said I
Yeah.
can't raise my eyebrow,
Watch
but
the edited
yes.
version.
The metaphorical
Yeah,
eyebrow. Yes. What's that,
If I
Meeks?
could, I would.
They would have lots of knowledge if they watched the edited version.
Oh, the edited versions are like 4 times our regular show.
I watched the one you told me I was cool in.
All right. Note to self: tell Sid she's cool in
In all
every
of 'em.
show, and
All of 'em.
problem solved.
But if you tell me a specific point I'm cool, then it like really,
Helps.
gives me that extra oomph to be like, oh, okay. Because I want to be cool again. So then I'll recap and study and make
The
sure
cool
that I'm,
factor.
at least that cool next time, if not cooler.
I think what she's trying to say is, if you're going to compliment
she's a
her, give her the
perfectionist of her art.
details.
Okay, yeah, that's
Or
what I'm
that.
saying.
All right, I'm teasing you.
She's a perfectionist of her art.
I
of
am.
speaking.
I like to tweak myself.
Tweet yourself for
Tweak.
Okay.
Tweak.
You guys don't get me in trouble. I don't even know what you're talking
doesn't
about.
mean
I didn't
tweet,
even know what
tweet.
dirt
She means
meant till I
tweak.
met you guys.
This
Okay.
is a religious show.
We don't mean tweeting
It
in
actually
that
is
manner.
not a religious
I thought
show.
you said it. What? Okay, you know what, guy?
No.
Are you in charge here?
It's a spiritual show.
No, actually, God
in
is
charge here?
God is in
God.
charge here, and He is very anti-religious. He went out of
He's
his
looking
way.
down at us going, I see you.
So
You-
what do you call it?
Spiritual.
That's a good question because I don't have a great word. I'm a believer. I don't like that word. I don't like the word Christian because it has these connotations.
Because the word religion.
What do
turns
you
me
say,
off, too.
Meeks?
And when you told
it's
me
a
that,
truth show.
I was turned off by
And
the
we've
whole
been to the-
idea.
We
But
happen
then
to
I
be
told you I don't
discussing
hate you as
biblical
much
truth.
now.
Hold
Say
on,
that
what does
again,
me
Meeks?
say?
What'd you say,
So-
Meeks?
So it's a truth show, but we talk about biblical truth as part of the umbrella of greater truth. So,
Yeah, I'm not here to.
Would you say spiritual or religious or?
We could say either or, but ultimately we're talking about the truth that Jesus told to us in His Word. So, and that just, it has to do, some people call it religious, or, some people, when they talk about religion, organized religion, they start getting real cringy and saying, so it doesn't
I
have
have a good
connotation.
category for us. We're an enlightenment show.
I
Yeah.
like that word.
I like that too, right?
But does it cover what you're trying to? I just want to know from your words, like what you're trying to be. I don't know, because I swear the reason why I'm saying religious is because you said that.
The way the human mind remembers things is we don't remember actual words. We remember the picture in our head. So if I were to say to
okay.
you, hey, Sid, make sure you get over to my house by 6, okay? A month later, we might ask you, did I say come over to my house or come over to my home? And we get those mixed up all the time. You're not going to mix up the word mouse for house, though. So I go out of my way to just I don't even like mentioning religion unless it's to say that we are against all of them. Literally, every man-made religion on earth, literally, either is or will be co-opted by evil forces. All of them. None of them get
But
out.
that confuses me because
I get it.
I thought you guys were Christians, and I thought that's a religion. I'm just
Well, no,
so
it's-
confused.
It is,
No,
but like
that's
Christianity has flaws, as in Catholic have evil flaws, and like just the organized religions. There's always some evil entity.
Christianity is an
slides
umbrella over a lot of religions. Christianity is just a belief system. It's a philosophy that what was written in these ancient scriptures actually is the truth. Like Meigs and I did not go looking to prove Jesus right. In fact, I would say we probably went out of our way to prove that it was not right. Does that?
Yep.
Do you agree with that, Meigs?
Big time. Big time. I did not ever want to have the label of Christian associated with me at all.
Oh,
So
same
I'm very
here.
resistant
I mean,
at first. Because people get confused with the labels and stuff. I'm just a follower of
That's what I'm
Jesus
trying to
and
understand.
the truth that he had for everyone. So, but it took a while for me to get there.
it is probably just easier for the general layperson to go, yeah, we talk about religious stuff too. It's probably just easier to say that. But the truth that,
Right.
but we are not I'm very anti-religious. Like, I'm a believer in that. I don't know if you guys remember that slide we showed where most of humanity is trying to reconcile themselves to God through a man-made religion.
Yes.
And you can instead circumvent all that, which is what the Bible
You want a
says to
direct
do,
passage.
is you do not put a man between us and
Right.
God.
Don't take the long route.
God
take
already
the
put that man
easy
here. His
route.
name was Jesus. Very hard to understand
Jesus.
because everything from physics to philosophy to history, everything, when you really look in the details, where the devil hides,
Devil
literally.
details.
He really is. And it's funny, but, this just occurred to me. We send out those emails, and I make fun of you guys for not reading them. But you know who always reads them?
The devil.
Well, probably. But Meeks, for instance. And so does Tony. And it's sort of funny. Those two
I read
guys.
'em.
I read them too.
Yeah, but no one ever responds or wins the prize that I embed
I
in
respond
there.
with the stupid stuff.
All right.
Just to let you know I'm there and I'm listening.
All right, so at the end of the day, we're just looking for what the truth of the world is. And nothing is taboo.
So this show can be explained as we are truth seekers.
Yeah, dude, it's basically a
Yes.
truth-seeking show. And if
Yeah,
it
like-
Not to
turned
be
out,
confused with Truth Train Radio, because that guy was batshit crazy.
Right.
I'll pay $1
Bat
to say
bleep
that.
crazy.
I'm batshit crazy.
Bat bleep
Well, you're in a
crazy.
different way. You're bat bleep crazy in a different way.
Okay, so I want to get just a couple things to get closure on CERN, so we can get into NASA a little more deeply.
Okay.
Okay, so one of the things we've got CERN that is doing some things that even scientists that do not believe in the spiritual world or the Bible or anything like that are in droves starting to notice that something strange is going on there, and we're breaking into places where or we're doing something that is allowing entities to come into our realm.
So it's like The Flash. where he opened up. He like traveled back in time.
It's like
and
The Gate.
ran
Remember
so
that
fast.
movie? Wasn't it called
He traveled
not
back
The
in
Gate.
time and brought
Yeah.
That
different
was it.
flashes. to
Stargate.
Really?
Yes.
Well,
that's
there's
exactly
Stargate,
it.
but then there's The Gate that
The Gate.
pit that
You're
opens in
getting.
the
No, I put
backyard.
an image of that in our show last week.
Stargate was a good one too.
Yeah.
Kurt Russell.
Stargate.
Well, you listen. I didn't believe
well.
there was either. But let's just say this: you're gonna let your eternal outcome ride on a guess, on a belief, based on what? Because I get almost every thought that has entered the human's mind at the end of the day has its origin in evil. Like by the time you're 18, we have our worldview set. And we're really sort of stuck in it forever unless something crazy happens, like happened to me or happened to me. And I don't care if someone's 60 or 70. I mean, a lot of people never wake up. But you want to talk about what a tragedy is? And this guy, I'm not sure who he is. But here's the...
What's his name?
This human.
So here's the thing
Eugene.
is
For watching and commenting.
I have met
Yeah, thank
people
you.
that will have fire insurance on their home for something that's very unlikely, in my opinion, to happen. But they won't even open up this book that everyone that opens up is saying, holy cow, there is something different about this. But some of them won't even look at it. Even you, Sid, with all due respect, the first time you were on,
Jeez.
you had made a comment saying that you refuse.
Until I was led to it. I didn't want it to
So
be
have you-
forced upon
Have
me.
you read it since, or have you started reading it? or-
I've read parts I was led to. You know.
That's how it works.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to read it because my family's forcing me
No,
to
that's
be
how-
a
that's-
Christian.
that's how it
you
works for
know.
me, too.
If I believe in something, it's because I believe in whatever it's talking about.
Like, you
because
wanna
I
explore
read
it yourself,
You
yeah.
know, I'm not going to back this whole book and Bible and belief. And like I said, I've never opened it up.
Well,
that'd make me a horrible, hypocritical
Right.
person.
And there's
You
so
look
many
beautiful
parts-
today, by the way, I must
Thank
say.
you.
There's so many parts that are pretty much unbelievable.
I know.
You know what I mean? And I mean that from a skeptical point of view and from a religious point of view, because if you're just finding religion or whatever, and you're starting to read about, especially the Old Testament, the New Testament.
You're like a Nephilim guy.
Well, and it's just that. I mean, and then and I put this to other people too: is how do you explain that the people in Egypt and then the people in in Mexico or in South America,
The same hieroglyphs.
same hieroglyphics, the pyramids are on the same plane.
Because Satan has been the god of this
You know what I mean?
world
So
since the
it's
days
just-
of Adam and
it's-
Eve.
That's the stuff that's hard to explain for me.
Well, it comes
know?
down to the fact that, like I said in previous shows, you're told from a little kid not to believe in magical things. So when you read it, it
But-
seems so hard to believe because
you
it
gotta
seems
put a
magical.
different-
It seems like a movie.
Put a different label
know?
on it because it's not magic. The Incas
I
and
mean,
the
it seems
Aztecs
like
and the
magic, though.
Egyptians. And we have found pyramids all over Earth.
All over Earth.
And we've also found something odd because these societies supposedly had no contact with each other. Yet they all had this very odd practice of human sacrifice, which is something that there's only one man in history that has been blamed for wanting human sacrifice and needing it, and that is the devil, who has access to the whole earth. So it makes total sense that we see these pyramid-like structures popping up everywhere. In fact,
Some
I
here
think
in the United States, some in Russia, they're everywhere.
we've found them on Antarctica to boot.
Right.
They're on all continents. And I don't think the pyramids' role in Earth history is done. I actually think those are...
That's where the Transformers are.
You'd be surprised.
Oh, that was a good one.
Okay, so some of the stuff that you were, magic, impossible to believe, because I was there, man. Totally there where you guys were.
Because it all seems so fantasy-like
Well, that's why...
when it comes down to it.
That's why the devil's in the details, and that's why this
Yeah.
show exists, because we're breaking it down. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm guessing there are already some things you guys have seen where you're like, oh, I never knew that, or I wouldn't have guessed that, or
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right, because we're going to close CERN out,
Okay.
and it's probably going to be the scariest thing you're going to see about
Oh,
CERN.
great. Nightmares.
But in a way, look, it's not that I'm trying to scare you. I don't.
You're opening up that third eye.
But in some regards, if there is a little fear, that's not if that gets you to do something that will ultimately land you in heaven versus hell, then it's all right to feel a little fear right now.
Right.
I mean, I used to. I don't have fear of demons anymore. I have fear of disappointing God. I still have a fear. Meeks, does that make sense to you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Once you wake up to the dark spirits of this world, you go through a bit of a shock, but then you just consider them like flies that you flick away with your index finger and your thumb.
All right, Meeks, do me a favor. Will you pull up Revelation 9?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to have you read that. Oh, Kelly,
Look at the big
turn
brain
your
on KJ.
brownie pin halfway.
Woo-wee!
Okay.
That was a $5 bonus. Right
Sometimes, does it feel weird when we're talking about demons and evil to be
No.
laughing in the middle of it?
Oh, no.
Okay.
It's
good.
all just,
there. This is a
it's
happy-go-lucky Christian
right.
show.
Yeah.
We're just happy-go-lucky. All right, so just something interesting that this is the Catholic magazine that is talking about.
Oh, wow.
They're seeing demonic activity on the rise,
Ooh.
which has been, there's no website that tracks this like they track earthquakes or they track,
Where are the Ghostbusters when you need them?
Is that devil playing with his...
Yeah, that's a little demonic creature on a
Whoa.
supposedly Catholic building.
Come
Look,
Wait.
oh no, you guys, that's just.
No, is that what I think it is?
Looks like he's
It looks like he has
diddling
a,
himself.
yeah.
I
Doesn't
didn't
it?
look. This photograph I didn't choose. This was provided by the National
It
Catholic
does.
Register.
It looks like he's got his Frank in his hand.
Who did this to us?
It
Oh my
totally
God,
does it not?
Meeks, this is not me,
Sabotage.
man. I'm sorry.
And look at the person or the
What kind of
whatever
reason?
underneath.
All right, let's move on. I just wanted. My
Wow.
point was,
I think you did this just to show us that picture.
wait till we do the subliminal sex
Oh my
show. Then you guys can
gosh.
pipe in with all this. All right, so the Catholic Church is officially coming out and saying demonic activities on the rise. They've been saying this like since the late 80s. It's just about 2 decades after CERN was up and first starting its thing. Meeks, can you do you have the Revelation 9 pulled up?
I sure do.
Can you read that to us?
Okay,
'Cause this-
Revelation 9. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth. And to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit as the smoke of a great furnace. And the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months, and their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh a man. And in those days men shall seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee
That's the
from them.
worst.
Hang on.
Ooh.
And the shape of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle, and on their head as it were like crowns, and on their head were as it on and on their head were crowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of men, and they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. Should I keep going, Dave?
Yeah, get all the way to the end.
Okay. And they had breastplates, as it were breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. And they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. Oh, woe is past, and behold, there come 2 woes more hereafter. Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds like one of the most disturbing creatures ever.
Yeah.
All right. Might not even be a creature. We're going to look at a couple things. Now, I have studied.
Did you not say it was a creature? Did you hear what it sounded like?
Well, hang
It's
on.
metaphorical.
Okay, so I've studied. Well, I thought it was. Just wait. Just wait.
Okay.
All right. So Revelation. Revelation for me is the most fascinating book of the Bible. I mean, it's just the stuff that
Revelations?
Oh yeah, because it all builds
it's
up.
one. It's one
it's
singular.
It's like the grand finale.
Mandela effect Bible changes that are throwing people off. For me, it was always Revelations, plural. Anyway,
Okay.
that's an issue for another day.
That is for definitely another day. All right, so I'm gonna throw in my after having studied this amongst other blah 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 everything throughout the Bible. I'm just gonna give you my human interpretation of this, what it sounds like in modern day, which is in the last days there's going to be this swarm of locust-like creatures coming out of the bowels of earth. These things are going to look like humanoids. They're going to have stingers, and they won't be able to kill anybody.
Like for real?
That's what the Bible says. Now, every time I look at the Bible, I'm like, it gets more and more literal the deeper I look.
Okay.
So I've spent a lot of time, and all right, so we already know.
So beware of these creatures.
You can protect now, this passage said, if you have the seal, if you are truly with God, these things will not be able to even touch you.
Okay.
This is what I'm saying. There's a level of protection that no human can give you for what is coming.
Right.
There will be only one way. There's only one way to survive it. There is no boyfriend. There is no army guy. There is no one on earth that is going to be able to combat what is coming. Can we kill that? Okay. All right, so these things are going to come out of the bottomless pit. For reasons I'll go into on another show, these are not actual locust bugs. These are demonic creatures.
Right.
Okay, that is discussed in
Well,
other
I mean, they have
parts.
human heads, so I figured they weren't actual.
Human-looking heads. Okay, very okay. So when I first started looking at this, I was pretty sure that this is a guy writing in the year 90 AD, and this looks like a helicopter.
Yeah.
They got stinger tails. They sound like a rushing waterfall,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm saying, okay, that's what John the Revelator
Right.
might have been, because he's given a vision of these things.
Airwolf was there.
He does not. He does not even know the thing. This happens to so many prophets in the Bible. They do not even understand
Right, 'cause they've never
what they're
seen
looking at.
anything, right.
They're just told, you just write down what you see
The only
in
thing they
your
ever
own
saw in the
words.
sky was
Yeah.
a bird.
Okay.
You know, now they're seeing a
Yeah, that
helicopter
makes
come
a lot of
flying
sense right there.
All right, now here's where it's going to get scary, because somewhere, and the best I can track this to is around the late 90s. Okay, this is very recent now.
Okay.
We've been finding these little creatures that have some very unbelievable characteristics that have not ever been known by any biological. They're nowhere on our DNA
What?
map.
Show me.
We're
Some
gonna.
stuff that's in the
Do
volcano.
this.
Okay.
I think I know what you're talking
Do
about.
this.
All right. So
Ooh, wow, them-
let's start.
Oh, I've seen these. They're like little fairies.
Yeah, but there's more to them
You
than
gotta
you
do this
think.
thing, remember?
Hang on.
This.
Okay.
You won't listen to me.
All right. I will in a
Okay.
sec.
Wow.
All right, so let's just look at some images. These things have been found all over the world. Doctors have they've x-rayed them. They've analyzed them. They're being studied. These are,
I want one.
it's literally a demon, and these
I
things,
want one though. Still. No, I'm just
don't
joking.
ask,
I'm joking.
you be very, you may get it.
Wow, look at
They
that.
look
All
like
right.
little fairy people.
So look, these are humanoid. They've
What
tested
the
their
heck?
DNA. They're a hybrid creature.
How many have been found?
Right here, Eric. This is proof.
How
that
many
the
have been found?
Because that's human DNA in there. They can fly, like the Bible said. They do have the faces of men. We've found now
Fucking weird.
dozens.
Dozens of these?
Now, it gets even stranger. They do have a stinger, by the way.
What?
They do.
I thought that was his coccyx.
Not only that, you see all these white dots here? Do you know what those are? Those are electronic monitoring chips that popped up on the X-ray scans.
No way.
This was done by L.A. Marzulli. This has been a number.
From the Marzulli
Here
Club?
again, we
Mazzuli.
judge the
On
world by
Mazzuli
what the
thing.
television tells us. So if they don't tell us this, we don't know. This is why most of the world is going to
want
just be
one.
absolutely
Oh, they're cool.
surprised. So
Oh,
we've
it's
had
a little demon.
doctors.
See, if I ran into a demon that tiny, I would just crunch it.
Odds are when
got
you
you.
see this guy, he's going to be surrounded by, and I mean billions of them. Billions. Do you understand? It's going to darken the sky. It's going to be, this alone will be one of the scariest things that's ever happened to people.
OMG.
Because these things are intelligent. They're sentient. They can communicate with each other. And
Straight up out of a movie.
Wizard
They
of
have
Oz
got-
monkeys.
Oh no!
That's what it
Oh
looks like.
no!
there is American-made
Oh, no.
equipment embedded in their skin. That's going on somewhere, probably at an underground base, because that's where these things. This is what your tax dollars are paying for. All right.
In the freak.
So these are humanoid. At first, they've now been
They're
found.
being cloned or something. Like
They're like the
and
creatures from the
mu-
gate,
like, they're
except
like
for with
mutants
wings.
with like locusts and humans. Like
This
and
is the
we paid for
reason.
this.
This is the reason God brought the flood in the first place. Is because Satan was so messing with our DNA. We were down to just 8 human beings: Noah and his kids and their wives that had a clean bloodline. Their DNA was not corrupted by this, because this is what Satan did the first time. And what's so crazy is this book that said there was a flood, which, as a researcher and scientist, there absolutely was a global flood. There's no doubt about it. Every single civilized society has a record of having come from a flood, and a family survived. And they, the Chinese call him Na, the Spanish call him Noah.
Yeah.
You can tell it's the same freaking story.
Yeah.
Now, the first time the flood happened was because Satan's messing around with God's creation. And God said that would happen again. Jesus actually said this because his disciples asked him, what's going to be the sign of your second coming? How are we going to know? And he said, it will be as in the days of Noah. And there were 7 signs in the days of Noah. People were boozing, partying, they're not with God.
Right.
We fit all of them. And it wasn't until really the 1950s that 2 things happened that put us where we are now. One is Israel did get reestablished, like it was predicted. And the other is that the 7th and final characteristic of the days of Noah was going to be the genetic hybriding, the manipulation. And that ultimately is what is going to have
Are there more
God.
pictures of them?
Lots.
So that
Here's this
did
thing.
start in the 50s.
Well, hang on. We got to.
Wow.
Genetic manipulation for like the main part, like
Look,
started
What
in
was
the
happening
50s.
further than that? Because Hitler was
in the modern.
manipulating.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? That's,
And there's a reason the Nazis are very much tied to NASA.
Yeah, all that.
We're going to complete a circle here. All right, so these guys have been found in
Is that a
different
quarter?
places. Yeah, that's how big they are.
that's crazy.
So what's funny is
I have
so
seen
cool. I want this tattoo.
them. No, don't do that.
Yeah.
Right here on the chest.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know
Oh
if-
my gosh, that can't be real.
these are actually all real. These are hanging in a
What?
He's the
museum.
king. He was the king.
This is
right there.
insane.
And that is also that they pulled
What in the
DNA out of this
world?
guy. Now they said that this was a deformed
It's an alien.
a deformed baby, but please.
Wow.
You can see by the way they have that hair, the long hair, remember that they talked
These
about?
are things of fantasy, though. These are things from fantasy movies to me.
Now
These are
remember,
things that I'm like, I want one. in
part
a
of Satan's
jar.
plan is to get you to think that things like this are fantasy, so you
Right.
discount them before you ever. Because once you see this for real,
But my parents said
I
no.
would shit myself if I see this for real.
I would be
Yeah,
like, come
run.
on with me. I want you, which is
so
terrible.
if you guys want to, if
Yeah.
you
Wow,
guys,
that one looks like a little
thank you.
wolf.
you can almost see they've been experimenting with different hybrid formulas, different gene formulas. I mean, this has like the face of almost like a dog.
Oh,
Um,
look
some-
how tiny they are.
Some are super small, some are bigger.
Wow.
It really grosses me out, like looking at it. I just
I
feel
love
disgusted
it.
by
I
it,
feel
to be
so
honest
like
with you.
amazed. I love this.
They're
I
doing this
don't.
on the
It makes me
nano
feel
scale
gross
too.
inside.
What makes?
What's me?
What'd you say, Meeks?
They're doing this on a nano scale too. These kind of creatures, people look up Morgellons disease. These kind of creatures can be seen on a nano scale, not exactly looking like this, but insectoid creatures are being found combining with people's DNA. It's called Morgellons disease. And
No,
they're
you showed me
insect-
that just
insect-like things out of their skin and fibers, and it's just unreal. So they're doing this on this scale, where it's like a fairy type scale where you could see it with
Right.
your naked eye. But they're also doing this on a nano scale.
Meaning
and
that
there's
you
nano
can't see them with
labs.
the naked eye?
Yeah, it's like in the
All of-
movie Ant-Man
Yeah.
and stuff.
Oh my God.
Oh, see, I
So
didn't even
Ant-Man
understand what
It's
she
kind of
meant by that.
realistic.
If you all TV is realistic. I mean, if you
No,
go-
TV.
it is, and to a point. I mean, you think these writers come up with these ideas? No, they're, when you look at like Chicago PD, they have real police people working with them. when they're doing these movies like Ant-Man and all that stuff, they go to researchers and say, hey, is this stuff available? Because this is
Wow.
what we want to do. And they're like, oh, yeah, we've been doing it. They won't tell you everything, but that shit's happening on a level that we don't even know about. Like he said, there's probably some underground bunker that's got these things going
It's
on. And then there's
conditioning.
another underground bunker that's doing the nano ones. And then they're...
And they don't know about each other.
Uh-uh.
I mean, you remember our whole military and really our society is one of compartmentalization and oaths
Need
to
to
secrecy.
know.
So I've got a friend who's an FBI agent, and he's married to a federal prosecutor, and they've both taken these oaths of loyalty, essentially to their superiors. And there are things that they are not even supposed to discuss with each other.
Right.
Meaning, now at the end of the day, who are we making this oath of secrecy to?
Satan?
Yeah, if you
Supposedly.
usually
The government, but...
the honorable thing that is buried in humans, which is to honor an oath you make, which is to keep that secret because you think you're doing it for the good of your country or because we need to beat the Russians or for whatever reason. Satan is actually playing on that human part of us, and he is getting everyone to essentially, via the stone soup method, we're building the weapons to our own destruction, but it's like how the Manhattan Project worked. A lot of scientists after the Manhattan Project said if I would have known that I was working on a weapon that was going to kill 100,000 people, I never would have done it. But all I knew was I was doing this little part of a test. I didn't know what the big picture was. All I knew is my government needed me to figure out how to cool, a reactor, whatever. Not putting it all together. But you understand
But you got 10 different people working on that. You got him working on this. You got him working on that. And then you got one dude that puts it all together.
Well, that's why you keep going up the
like you said,
chain.
compartmentalize.
Compartmentalization. That's how our intelligence agencies work. That's how governments work. Political offices.
You're on a need-to-know basis, you know. This
Yeah,
is
like even how many presidents have said, "I'm going to find out what is in Area 51."
not
We have
more
a
than
friend
that.
that works there, and he wouldn't talk about it at all. We remember we
Probably
kept
embedded
quizzing
with a-
him. What goes on? He,
Probably
I can't
embedded
talk
with a-
about
probably
it. Don't
embedded with a
ask.
chip that every time he talks about it, it fucking goes off.
Oh, there's probably a sensor on him that records everything he says.
Oh,
They-
what's that, Meigs?
It's probably true. A lot
Yeah.
of the people in the military are chipped, and you can read about this on the mainstream news. They are chipped with RFID chips.
What's funny, Tony said something to me a couple weeks ago. This is before we were talking about any of this stuff, and he was like, people. Oh, I think it was we were on the road for Motown Meals making a
Right.
delivery, and he was like, there was something online that he had looked at, and he was like, yeah, all these people are worried about getting chipped and everything. We're already chipped, guys.
Oh yeah,
Right
Well-
here.
for sure.
This right here is recording everything we
Right?
do.
Talked about it.
It's chipping, and I'm holding my phone up for Meigs and whoever's not watching the video. But
Oh,
So
I
that's-
100% agree.
That's two
For
things
sure.
you've just now
You're registered
either
to that. it
mentioned
records you.
yourself or you've now observed just today. Two things that up for 1900 years would have been freaking impossible. How are they going to chip everyone? How are they going to control what we buy or sell?
We did it ourselves.
The Bible predicted it. So and you're right, but the devil, according to the Bible, is going to go one step further and going to require you to embed that chip in your body.
Right.
We're getting there.
We're
If
not.
somebody has a chip and they can just.
Oh, we got our dogs
they're gonna
chipped.
do it.
People are now voluntarily
babies,
chipping.
They're chipping their babies, so in case their baby gets kidnapped. Like, what's the odds of that happening? But I'm going to do it anyway. you know?
Right.
And the second thing you've now seen today is we just read that wild passage out of Revelation 9 talking about these locusts, like little humanoid-looking like creatures, and there's going to be billions of them that are going to attack humanity.
Oh my goodness.
And we've just found there were about 15 different examples found all over the world that we just showed. So it's not one guy that's a conspiracy theorist trying to get attention. These guys, I doubt, have coordinated with each other for what purpose? There's no book.
Coordinated.
So every time I look more deeply, I get more and more affirmation. I have yet to find something where I'm like, oh, well, this contradicts itself. I now under the Bible can't be true. I have yet to find that. Have you ever found anything like that, Meigs?
No, everything can be explained biblically, and I never wanted to be somebody that was saying that, but I have to admit it's true. Everything in this world can be explained biblically.
Everything.
I'm curious to see what Sydney thinks about the little creatures.
I mean, I've seen them before, actually. Before.
Like flying around or just like.
Not physically.
I have 4 of
but
them at my
I've
house.
I've seen them on the internet a couple different times. I don't remember what the article said exactly. I thought it was weird at the time, but I didn't really do any research of any sort. I don't know much about, like, I'm intrigued by this Nephilim thing y'all are, like, talking about now.
Nephilim.
Yeah, because I've been paying attention, and I, like, want to know more about that now.
That's what I did too when I first started
Read the
hearing
book of
about it.
Enoch.
Go ahead, Meeks. You probably know best.
Book of Enoch, you said?
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off
No,
there.
go ahead.
But yeah, read the book of Enoch. That talks about.
Is that in the Bible?
Yep.
Or okay.
Old
It
Testament.
used to be, but it was kicked out of the Bible in 432 AD.
See, those are all the parts that I would want to read, are the naughty parts.
Right.
Right. You
I'm
want
that guy. I want
that-
to learn the bad words of like the foreign language first,
Right,
and then we revert to
it's
like.
funny. I did the same. I was so against the Bible. I was at the point where I was reading. Now the books you're talking about, they're called the Apocrypha,
Right.
or the pseudo Apocrypha. These apocryphal books, it's a revealing. These are revealing books, and I do believe it was evil forces that had them removed, because all of these books paint the picture of all of the fallen angels.
Well, that's the whole reason I get upset, and I didn't want to have anything to do with it, is because I felt like it was deceitful,
It is.
because
What's deceitful?
the Bible's deceitful because a lot of the information's been removed.
Well, it's not the
And-
Bible. It's the church. That's because the church is who
Yeah.
made the
That's
book.
right. Don't confuse.
churches are
don't
deceitful.
confuse Catholicism with the King James Bible. Remember, the umbrella is Christianity, and underneath you got Presbyterians and Greek Orthodox, and you've got so many different flavors, and everyone is taught to think their religion is the only one. And funny thing is this book that it just predicts everything. It just keeps predicting, even these little creatures that no one would have an explanation for. Predicts that too. And it says, don't go through a man-made religion. Don't do it.
Where are they
You're
finding those?
all over the world.
all over the world.
All
Yeah.
over the world.
All
Just
over.
dead? They find them dead, or have they found them alive?
Good question. I don't know if
Yeah.
we found any. I believe they.
Do
That's
they
a good question. I
speak?
don't know.
I mean, do they speak, or do
They
they?
speak Kelly Jean.
I mean, do they just?
Kellenese?
Do they talk? They're
Kellenese.
little humans with wings. Do they talk?
The Bible
yeah,
didn't
like, I
say.
want to know if
Yeah.
because they're supposed to be.
I wanna
found
have a
together, if they
conversation
were,
with
like,
one.
They've only found one at a time where they're friends.
I'm gonna
whereas
like pat it
they're-
on its little head.
family.
Oh,
Hey,
buddy.
look, it's like
Would you like
this.
a cracker?
If you've ever seen like a cockroach walk through a house, you know there's
Nope.
there's a million more cockroaches back there. Oh, I have.
I
tho-
don't hang
I
out
have
in
those as
places
pets
with
too.
cockroaches.
It's an atrocity.
I mean, if we were to see them in the sky, we
Wow,
probably
Book of
would
Enoch.
think they were locusts. So it's
Enoch.
like-
I love Enoch. Enoch's
All
my
right.
boy.
Let's recap what we know about NASA. Any thoughts on anything so far?
Lots of thoughts, but I've always
Well,
expressed
share
them.
anything you
no,
want
I've
to.
expressed them
Meigs, anything?
as they come to my brain.
Yeah, just look up. Please look up Morgellons, and this is a continuation. of what-
Morgellons?
Morgellons disease.
Look up the nanotechnology industry and see what kind of genetic experiments they have already been doing.
man.
And it's
This part
horrific.
makes me so upset.
And then plan on never having tomato
That's where
soup
I get angry
again.
and I start like planning rebellions, and I don't have a license yet, so it's like I can only do so much on a bus and like on foot.
All right.
Goodness, I need a carpool.
We need Uber. Uber,
gonna-
join in the revelation, Uber.
And we need to
Riff
get her.
Revolution carpool.
We need to get her a gun as well.
By the way, guys,
I have
I
one of
gotta
those.
say,
legally,
Hang on,
but
what's that,
I'm
Meeks?
still willing to carry one if y'all.
I love y'all. I'm sorry that I'm dead.
All
You're
right,
checking out. All right, honey.
Peace out.
Bye,
Alright,
Meeks. We
have
love
a-
you. Have fun with your friends.
Love you long time.
Love you long time.
Love you long time.
And next time. And next time.
Long time and next
long
time.
time and next time and infinity.
2 times next time. 3 times on Sunday.
All right.
What was it called?
Morgellons disease.
Morgellons disease.
It's really
okay.
disgusting. Like if you've seen what was the space movie?
Star Wars. Star Trek.
No,
Stargate.
forget it.
Oh man.
Aliens. Terminator.
No, it's more.
The
You
Last
forget, you guys.
Starfighter.
Come on, guys. Come
The
on.
Last Starfighter.
Got it.
I know.
No, the original Flash Gordon from 1932.
Flash
They
Gordon.
need to remake that.
Oh,
I know.
can't remake a classic like that.
All right, guys, come
No
on.
way.
We got to get through part of NASA,
Okay.
or I'm going to blow my head off.
We got Flash Gordon's part of NASA.
Flash Gordon.
Don't do that. We
He's
need
in
you.
charge of NASA.
Flash Gordon.
All right, just to recap, Book of Enoch, which was in my opinion, was an inspired book. I mean, it talks about Jesus coming. It talks about the fallen angels, and there's a number of. Enoch just goes into the greatest detail, Sid, about.
Who's Gilgamesh?
I'm listening. I'm listening to you.
Is he in the book of Enoch? Gilgamesh?
He is. He's in the Bible, but he's under the name of Nimrod. That's his name. in the Bible.
Nimrod.
So Gilgamesh.
Gargamel. Isn't that
No,
from like
Oh.
Harry Potter or something?
Smurfs.
It's just something that came to my head when I heard Book of Enoch. I just remember Gilgamesh. Is that his name?
Gilgamesh, yeah.
Yeah.
He was
I'm
he was a
slight
giant.
knowledgeable.
He like became
Yeah.
a giant. and
Nephilim, right? Was he or no?
He would have been a
Gilgamesh.
Nephilim. He would have been
Yeah.
what the Bible calls the men of renown. And these are the big guys. And we found the skulls. We have found their equipment. We found
Do you
footprints.
have pictures of those?
Yes, but not
Okay.
on today's show.
Okay.
We will be covering that. I'm making that one for Eric because he's a Nephilim fan, and this is going to lead us right into the
Great back
Nephilim.
in
Me too.
68.
What's
He
that?
almost won the pennant in 68.
Who did the
The
Nephilims?
Nephilims. You're silly.
No, man, I've been following them for
You're
years.
silly.
They're-
That's the year
Just
my
can't
mom
make
was
it back to
born.
the Phillies.
Their pitching staff just no good. Okay, so just to recap, and just notice there's some things in here that are theories, and there's some things that are in here are fact. If it's theory, it's my personal theory.
Okay.
But I do believe the Book of Enoch. I do think these Watcher angels were locked up. I do believe the Bible, the flood would have happened about 3000 BC. I think these dudes get out about 1900.
Wow.
Before then, I do think that it was Satan that was in the ear of Muhammad that made the Quran so he could do things like predict a faked moon landing in 632 AD. We do know that all the world's knowledge that was at the Library of Alexandria in Egypt disappeared. Now, some people say it was destroyed by the Muslim invaders. Other people say it just slowly withered away. But it kicks off the Dark Ages. And for the next 7
Dark
to
Ages.
800 years, there's almost nothing that comes out of humanity. No writings. There's a couple writings. One of them is the Quran. And if you ask me, this is a theory, but what was going on is Jesus is crucified. All of a sudden, Satan's plan to overt rule, to rule by force, does not work. Because people now know that there's something worse than death. It's not going to happen. And so now people are willing to die for this belief.
Right.
And the more that were willing to die for the belief, the more it grew Christianity.
Yeah.
And that's when you can see the Roman Empire made this switch.
In Muslimanity. No.
Instead of fighting against the Christians, because they were persecuting them horribly.
Right.
Nero, who's the one with a C? What's his name? He was nasty mother too.
Caligula?
Caligula, yes.
Yeah.
These guys were going after Christians until
Look at the big
miraculously
breeze.
they became Christians themselves. But they never really did. They just said they did.
Right.
Hence, now we have the Catholic Church, which I believe is the harlot.
The Vatican, which is the old Roman Empire.
And it is. I mean, they literally only went down the street.
Just real quick, did you see the Pope the other day? Like the people where he was somewhere and they were trying to kiss his ring and he kept pulling his hand away.
I like the
didn't
new
want him
Pope
to-
though. I
He
think
didn't
he's
want him
cool.
to kiss his ring because he wants to be a
He
regular
said
man, not a.
he said gay marriages are cool and stuff. That one, right?
Is he the devil? On earth?
They're all
Yeah,
the
it might
devil.
be.
They're all the devil. It
They would
doesn't
just
matter
say
their
he was
name. It's like who they work for. It's
Another-
like
Because-
you're
another
guilty
episode.
by
8 year-
association,
Another
in my
episode.
opinion.
Because 8
whoever
years
it
ago, I
is.
would have been like, that is such a good thing. But all that does is reveal to me that this guy is absolutely down with the devil.
Right.
Because no one that is a Christian
Like
would.
Motley Crue down with the devil?
He's just had more open ideas than all the other popes. Is what I'm saying. Like he's more
Trying to knock
open-minded.
you, Dave,
Like,
if you can see it.
What?
so you're like, wow, this
trying
guy's
to
actually
crack you,
pretty
man.
cool.
You're
That's
not-
what he did.
Crack me. Go for it.
No, you're not flinching, dude. Go.
Yeah,
What
he
did you
announced
say?
the gay
I
marriages.
said,
Oh,
like,
it's
you
all
said down
right.
with
You
the
know,
devil. I
like,
said,
and
like
that's
Motley Crue down with the devil.
fair.
I said, I'm
I
trying
get
to crack
it.
you, but you
I
know,
That-
get
you're
it.
gonna need to
Shout
do
at the
better.
you're like a
devil.
stone, dude.
Shout, shout.
All right. So,
NASA.
part of the theory, Satan then spends the
Oh,
next 800 years really removing evidence of Earth's real history. Not all of it, obviously, because we're finding it everywhere. Rome does go hidden, as the Bible said it would. I think we can now, that almost you could say is a fact, but I left that one as a theory. We do know there were very little human writings that came out of the Dark Ages. The Quran was one of the few books that made it.
Wow.
And they're already
That's
talking.
weird.
The Quran's
Very weird.
talking. It's already starting to change the narrative of Jesus because
Huh.
God wrote, I caused the flood, whereas the Quran is now saying this we. And they're beginning to introduce the concept of the ascended masters, of which, quote unquote, Jesus is one of them. So if you've done any New Age research
like
or
Suicide Squad
UFO
instead.
channelers or whatever, they seem to always go out of their way to say that, oh, yeah, no, Jesus is he's one of the good guys. He's one
Right.
of us, but he's just one of many prophets
Yeah.
we've sent you. They're not denying his existence, but if you don't recognize that he is the only one, you may as well not even know him. And that the Bible's pretty clear. Okay, so they start to change this narrative of we, which ties into what they're still saying even today, which is, a lot of people. I've got a friend that's out east. She knows, I met her through 9/11. She knows there is no conspiracy we have talked to that she does not absolutely believe, like I do, is actually truly happening in this world. But we have one massive difference that I'm afraid is going to literally cost her soul. And that is that she thinks what's in our skies are aliens from another place, and they're here to help us. They're here to do something good for us.
What
And
do you
that's
mean-
what
do you
she's...
mean in our skies.
Like God and his servants are aliens.
There's some... No.
So there's no God. It's aliens controlling everything.
That, yeah, she's
Yeah.
like, we
But
have...
God is an alien.
We
basically.
confused a god for alien, hence the ancient aliens were our gods.
Well, here's
And
the thing. Like,
that's what she's putting her faith in. She's going to believe that and put her
She's
faith...
sort of like me because I don't believe it's aliens that control it, but I also don't believe it's this, like I said, all-knowing.
I
dude
mean-
with flowing robes and the
Well, when you
beautiful
think of,
hair and beard.
Sorry, I'm still with Eric though.
I mean,
Sorry.
like when you
No,
think of
that's-
aliens, you think of, extraterrestrials from different planets and stuff. Now, God would be not from a certain planet. He would just be the all-knowing spirit in the sky, right?
If
you know,
there is a God, like
that's the
like
difference between
Bible
aliens
claims,
and God.
and all these other worlds are all created by Him. I mean,
Well, just hang
He
on.
wouldn't be
the
from a
heavens and the
certain.
stars.
Just
Right.
wait,
And all,
because the deception of what this world is began 400, 500 years before you were even born. So these things seem like ancient, foregone
Right.
conclusions.
You think God created aliens?
But just, no, I think the aliens are simply the demons. I mean, God, there are so many passages in the Bible where God references these things. They're going to look like froggish. They're going to have big eyes. They're demonic at the end of the day. And we're not doing aliens today. That's actually going to be a couple of shows out.
Ooh, I
But
can't
just
wait for
one little
aliens.
thing is Dr. Jonathan Mack, Harvard professor. He gets drawn into this interesting debate about he's a psychologist, psychiatrist, therapist type of person. And he is out to debunk why all these people have these visions of abduction experiences. He starts going into it to find out. He's looking to find out what the psychosis is so he can write a new theory of some
Right.
mental
Do you
disorder.
think it's actually happening?
Well, this is a Harvard professor.
Okay.
And go look him up. And I want to say his name is Jonathan Mack.
No, I'm saying, do you think they're actually abducted? Or they're just imagining it?
I believe they're actually abducted,
Okay.
without a doubt.
Crop circle. I see it.
So this guy starts looking into it. And the more he looks into it, the more he's like, wait a minute. These people don't know each other. I mean, I'm talking to my colleagues' patients.
Why would their story match up?
Why
you
do
know?
they know? Why do they have these ridiculous but exact details about the
Right.
ships
Same
they were
with
taking
the
and how?
Robes
hieroglyphs
that are
type
going in
thing?
and out of
Yeah.
them.
So he starts looking more and more into this, and he realizes, holy cow, there really is something going on here. So now he's thinking we're being visited by aliens.
Right.
He keeps digging further. So if you've ever heard of MUFON, MUFON, I don't know.
No.
It's a group that studies UFOs. I mean, these are massive organizations. They're just not covered on the news.
Right.
They had a conference, and this was probably 10 years ago, and Jonathan Mack and about 50 other psychiatrists, therapists, anyone that had a patient that was claiming this experience. And they had a conference filled with these guys to compare notes, to get some consensus on
Right.
what's going on. At one point in the meeting, one of the guys says, "Can we go off the record here for a minute? Because I want to bring something up that I'm even embarrassed to bring this up, but I'm just going to bring it up,
Right.
seeing if anyone else knows."
Experience this.
And he goes, "I've got a patient
Okay.
that was able to successfully end these demonic attacks when she cried out for the name of Jesus."
Oh wow.
And then every other psychiatrist spoke up saying, "I have patients that did that too. I have patients that did that too." And that's when Jonathan Mack realized, oh my God, we are dealing, Harvard professor, we're dealing with the demons of the Bible is what we're dealing with. And when you really start to understand how well they've deceived us, all the thoughts that naturally come to your head that make you discount this book, which I totally get, because I had those thoughts just like you did until into my 40s. And by the grace of God, because I was going to hell, even though I never would have guessed it. I'm like, I'm a good person. I'm the guy that helps the old lady on the side of the street
Yeah.
to change her tire. I'm going to heaven.
Right.
But then when I realized what my real state was, dude, it was very emotional. Just years to get to this point. Like, and
Yeah.
you guys are just starting to go through it, so that's why I don't want to be too overwhelming on this stuff. All right, any thoughts on anything? Comments?
Jesus rookies.
No, I don't want.
Hashtag
No.
Jesus rookies.
Well, that's why he's the host and we're just here.
We're here learning.
No, you guys ask questions.
We're the eye candy.
I was where you guys
Yes.
were 7-8 years ago,
Yes.
listening to these guys that have been studying this stuff for 7-8 years.
I'm
going,
like a sponge. I absorb it all every week.
there's a reason we're all here, and I do think it's a divine appointment, and we'll just see how that plays out.
Exactly.
All I know is okay, so I've had issues, like health issues, and then when my ENT finally diagnosed me, I really did thank God, and I didn't know where it came from. I said it out loud and I started crying because I was so thankful. I've been trying to get help for 6 months, and I've had this horrible now I have to have surgery and all this stuff. Anyways, and this lady that worked there invited me to church with her.
Oh, that was
That was it. And so the first time that I was there,
What church did you go to?
I didn't
Northridge?
go.
Oh, you didn't go?
and my left kind of went.
Shame on you.
Church of
Shame on you.
Church of
so
Satan,
listen.
Lansing
So-
East.
No, I accepted the invite, and then her kids got sick and stuff.
Aw.
And
We should
so-
go to
and
Northridge.
I
You'll
wasn't
like that.
feeling good that day either, and I felt bad that I hadn't been the one to reach out. But I'm glad that it was a mutual thing because I
Right.
really felt horrible, and I thought that God cursed me for that week because I felt like
Crap.
nothing.
Poop.
Um,
Poop.
No,
I
but
like
you got to
poop.
understand, it's very possible that, believe it or not, Satan does have enough managerial control that he and has enough memory.
Well, I don't know if that lady's from Satan or Jesus yet, but I'm trying to figure it out.
Probably-
And I'm
Pro-
gonna.
no.
Said
You say
she
finger?
straight up
Yeah.
just said finger it out by
Hey,
accident.
that's okay though,
That's
because
hilarious.
it was a joke and not literal,
I love it.
so I can do that.
I love you.
So I'm gonna
You
figure
guys,
it out.
I just want you to know
And
something. I got Meegs who balls me out every time you guys go down some dark, sexual
can
joke,
ball
which
me
I
out,
love
too.
because I like the. And if I'm 1
Tisk,
minute
tisk,
late, I got
tisk.
Eric yell. I mean,
Make
why?
it a
Why
fair
is this
game.
even my show, dude?
It's
Let's make it your
amazing.
show. I'll yell at you.
It's like
Shit.
the most action I would have gotten in a
Yell at
long
each
time.
other
Ball me out,
on the
Meeks.
air.
Oh,
All right,
she's
let's
not
take-
even here. I'm like,
Oh,
I'm
me.
waiting for her to respond.
See, we miss
Y'all
her.
could have said something. I'm waiting for her to
Well,
respond.
Meeks is like
well,
Siri.
Meeks
Meeks
did
is like
when
our
she left,
Siri,
she
you
said
guys.
Goodbye. Second
She's
week
like
in
our
a row,
Siri.
Very embarrassing.
Like
Jeez.
Siri.
All right, guys, let's come on. Let's get on point.
Meeks' new nickname is Siri.
Okay, remember. Theory, the reason that Satan needed to hide the existence of all these fallen angels, get them out of the Bible, get all those 32 apocryphal books removed, which talks about these guys, because they were going to be very instrumental in his plan to get the whole world to end up praising him. That is his plan. And he's going to come very close to doing it yet again. So where NASA comes in and NASA's critical to understanding aliens. Because I think we'll get to them today, hopefully. But we're going to look at images you can get off of NASA's website. So there is no question where this is not some dude in a backyard taking
Certified.
a fuzzy picture of something.
Notarized.
So I went back going through history. I've always looked for the earliest
Source.
idea of
Yeah.
anyone that says aliens.
Yeah.
The earliest I've ever been able to find after researching this for 4 years, is John Dewey.
Good old John Dewey.
You guys know who John Dewey is?
No.
You ever heard of the Dewey Decimal System?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
That we've heard
Yeah,
of. Okay.
yes.
Thomas Dewey.
This guy was
Dewey Howard
around.
or two and it Dewey. I can't even
Huey,
say
Dewey, and Louie.
it.
All right. This guy was around. This was the architect of the American education system, a system which
Right.
easily is meant to dumb us down, to make us compliant. Just believe authority, believe what they tell you. Don't think for yourself.
Right.
Okay. In 1917, he wrote. I mean, this is a pretty big deal. I mean, we've only been in the air since the Wright brothers,
Right.
supposedly 15 years ago. Okay, it's nothing.
15 years
He
ago.
wrote, someone remarked that the best way to unite all the nations on this globe would be an attack from another planet. In the face of such an alien enemy, people would respond with a sense of their unity of interest and purpose. This is how they're going to bring in the New World Order, because something so scary is going to appear, and we're going to
Those
think,
little weird wing things.
they're going to be one wave. Yet there are things that are coming out that are also gigantic too.
So just
Oh man, come on!
I know.
I don't want to do it anymore. I opt
Oh,
out. Where do I opt out?
You're opting out by being. This is how you opt.
so
A lot of if you're
Spam, spam.
people aren't certain.
No.
There's a
No,
lot
I-
of
no.
there's a lot of like healthy debate about this, and I don't know exactly where I fall, but there are a lot of theologians that are fairly secure that by the time all these locusts and things are coming out, if you're God's person, you will not be on earth. The only people that will be here will be the non-believers. And some of them still will get saved because it will finally, in that moment, the Bible says this,
Why does this make me have anxiety really bad?
because that might be the Holy Spirit saying, get your,
get together. So this is in 1917.
correct.
When was War of the Worlds?
Okay,
1940 something, right?
1938.
1938.
That's
So
next. That's Orson Welles.
21 years later, the world, or at least the United States, went batshit crazy because of this War of the Worlds. So you were going to talk about this? All right, cool.
Yeah.
Orson, so this
Oh,
is
there we go.
1938. It was
Shelton.
beautiful. It's
Good
almost
lead-in.
like we called each other.
Come on, I
You
didn't
gonna
know.
wear your?
Very good.
You wearing your Star Wars shirt?
I was gonna say.
Just me?
What's the name of that place?
What place?
The Hard Rock Cafe.
Yeah.
All right. So 1938. In my opinion, this is a test, a simple test.
Yeah.
Orson Welles. He basically calls it like there is
Was
an.
that it was a national broadcast, right?
I don't know if it was national, but there were people that were.
It was United States.
I mean, people were killing themselves. They were so scared.
Oh, it was worldwide?
This was very.
No, nationwide.
This was a very real thing. This was in 1938. All right. So, and I think our global masters are observing and monitoring. Well, how do they react in a panic? What do they do? Because these guys are. I mean, they are so well organized that they seem disorganized.
Don't like feeling like a hamster.
All right. So Orson Welles' War of the Worlds broadcast
Do you know about
happens.
this?
No, I don't feel like
1938.
Orson Welles did
I
a
don't like
fake.
feeling like a hamster.
He did. Orson Welles
Or
did
a
a fake
mouse.
radio. He did a fake. Everybody before TVs, they would sit around the radio and they listen to these shows and they'd get all excited because that's all there was to do. So all the families, everybody sat down and
Breaking news.
and he did a fake alien invasion. Now,
But he
was
didn't
just-
say it was fake. He was reporting.
Right now, it was done as this is actually happening, like it was like real life, and people flipped.
He said people were killing themselves.
They thought it was completely real, but it wasn't. So that's what happened with War of the Worlds.
Okay.
And then there was a movie about it, but the movie had nothing to do with the
'Cause
broadcast
I've
or
actually
whatever.
heard of the
Yeah,
movie.
Tom Cruise.
Yeah, Tom Cruise
It's
is in
it's
the movie,
based on
but
H.G. Wells' book.
But this
and he's
actually
someone that was
happened.
given a vision of what's coming up.
yeah, this actually
He
happened.
was crazy.
People thought it was
Him and
real.
Lovecraft,
H.G.
all those
Wells
guys.
is the guy that did this.
No, Orson Welles.
Orson Welles is the guy that did the radio broadcast.
No
where
relation. And H.G. Wells, I believe it was H.G. Wells who wrote War of the Worlds.
Oh, okay.
All right, so
Oh,
let's
that's
move
weird.
on. Here's a fact. Germany basically goes from horse-drawn carriages to splitting the atom in 20 years.
Oh wow.
The Nazis go from bankrupt, starving nation to a world superpower in 10 years. I mean, you guys, this is just...
And on top of that, they were a world superpower and were flush with money and still building tanks and weapons of mass destruction and all kinds of
Where
stuff
did they get
back-
all this money?
Yeah, exactly.
The central bankers. Because apparently Adolf Hitler was a bastard son of one of the Rothschilds, Lionel Rothschild. And this was, World War II was just another staged event that was written about in 1871 by Albert Pike, which we found out about because the messenger was struck by lightning
My
and
friend
their
just
secret
told me
plans
about
came
that.
out.
Is there a book?
Lots of them. Look, Guy, there's
I can't deal with you.
There's a whole.
there's
guide.
over 35 million of them. All right. We'll talk about that in a sec. But right now, Google's your best book, and it will lead you to any book on the subject.
Is Google
Well,
evil?
that specific date, I don't know. There's a million dates, obviously,
Google's
but somebody
kind
was
of
like,
evil.
read this book, and it was a date, and I didn't know if there was a book with that date.
Google's a tool, and like all tools, it can be used for good or evil.
Okay.
I do think at the end of the day, Google does not have the best interests of humanity, and they're going to help accomplish this new world order.
Right.
I can agree
But
to that.
they are right now. They're giving us something humanity's never had, and that is access to every library that has
Yes.
ever existed, anywhere, in any time in the world. You can just go
Maybe
read the manuscript.
Google
It's only-
is like the choice for like good or evil.
But it's
like,
almost an amount
are
of
you
time
gonna
before they start
illuminate
blocking
and
what you can look
educate
at.
yourself,
Oh,
or
it's
are you gonna
already.
just
You
rot
just-
away.
How would
and-
you know what they're blocking?
Right.
How do you know what you haven't seen? You
Google
don't-
could be very much in control of.
They
who
actually
you-
already are. You should,
Right.
There are some TED Talks where Google execs talk about how they are. There's almost, we have now a one-on-one relationship with our computers, and whatever your computer tells you is what you can have a different belief system than people in your own house
Right.
now. That never used to be the case. All right, Nazis financed by the central bankers, and these guys, these are the Rothschilds, Rockefellers. These are the guys behind Project Paperclip, which bring all these Nazi scientists. They become the CIA. They become NASA. I mean, this right here is essentially NASA's ground floor. This is their first wave of scientists. These are all ex-Nazis right here. And
Wow.
that one right there is Werner von Braun, the head guy who would
I'll
become...
pinch your head. I'll pinch your.
All right, my theory is Germany lost the war, but the Nazis didn't. They were all taken out of the country. The FBI is following Hitler in the 1960s. Who was at this Nuremberg trial? You know, the World War II trial where we put the quote-unquote Nazis on trial? Can you guys name
No.
anyone?
Because they all killed themselves.
There was really one big name on that list, Hermann Goring. Everyone else. And then the other, who's the SS guy, the creepy-looking one? He killed himself too.
Himmler.
Heinrich Himmler, thank you.
Good job.
Everyone
Big brain
else
analysis.
gone.
Yeah.
What we really got at Nuremberg was really a bunch of middle managers.
Well, Jonathan in my chat room says they did take scientists, which is what you just showed. All those guys were all the scientists and the genetic engineers. And they were the ones that designed the A-bomb and all the other stuff that came after.
They are, look, we know what the Nazis were into.
Yeah.
We know that the people that worked for the Nazis were pliable. They could be talked into doing really, they were talked into killing people, so they can probably be talked into doing anything.
Right.
Yeah, 'cause they're the
Um,
ones
It's
that
not
came up
much
with all
worse.
the
And that's who
gases
took over our space administration and our most powerful intelligence agency, which is more, there are secrets they have which they won't even give the president. Kind of odd. We know also that the Nazis were heavy into the occult. That is not a secret anymore. It might have been at some time.
Indiana Jones told us that.
Yeah. There is some truth. And Hitler was on a quest. He was looking for the DNA of Jesus Christ.
Oh, yeah.
The
Well,
spear
that was
of
his-
destiny
That
has
was
been
his- The Spirit
discovered.
of Destiny and the chalice or whatever.
The Holy Grail.
Holy Grail, that's what he was looking
that's
for.
what that whole book and whatever.
But you got to
about
understand,
it
Dan
is.
Brown,
Yeah.
a book like that comes out as people are starting to figure out the Illuminati, and that's co-opting the story. Now everyone that reads Dan Brown thinks
Well,
that if you
that
mention
just
the,
sparked
you're
on
just
my
saying it because it's
interest. That just sparked on my
Yeah, no,
interest,
yeah.
honestly. Like, luckily I wasn't one of those ones that like completely fed into it, but I was like, hey, this is a really cool, it like made me want to know more,
Yeah.
And obviously it's a crazy story. I can just really
I'd like to go
right
down that
in.
rabbit hole too. The Nazis and
Yeah.
the occult. That's
I mean,
I should
no, the
There's
definitely.
books
chalice
and movies
thing,
and all
the
kinds of stuff
chalice
about
thing,
that.
and the Dan Brown thing.
yeah.
I forget exactly. I don't know. I was pretty young when I read all that stuff.
You know,
But
I've
it was
been like
just-
fascinated by the Nazis since I was a kid.
Yeah,
Like
me
I just
too.
was. I
All
I
of
mean,
my
the History
family
Channel
is
is the
German,
Hitler
and
channel, so
they're
that
like soldiers
takes care
from
of
the
itself.
wars. So it's like I want to know more. I'm very German, and
Right.
all my
I'm a tad
all my
German.
family is like, fought in the different wars, so like I'm very curious about it, but I don't know directly from them about
Well, Meeks
anything.
will probably be able to send you some information about it. She always
Like a lot
sends
of
me
my
links
family
and
was
stuff.
born in Japan and stuff even.
Yeah.
Because like my grandpa
Military
was like over
overseas.
there,
Right.
like fighting, and like my aunt was born in Japan.
So
Yeah, well-
I'll say
Second
this, you
person,
guys. Like today, we're talking about all these little winged human creatures and like the occult and things that are somewhat magical that you're not really supposed to believe in, but they're actually
It's
happening.
reality. You're
Well,
calling
I
it
want to
mad.
walk around and be magical. Can I walk around and just like be what I want to be and like
I don't know.
right like everything's magical. I'm gonna walk around and be magical from now on too.
I don't
So-
know what the correlation is, and maybe
They've tried to
Jonathan-
make it look magical so you'll accept it, but it's not a good thing.
Jonathan
It's
is-
not a good thing.
Not a
I'm just saying,
positive
like, if
thing.
everything is magical, then I'm gonna own that. I'm gonna be magical too.
Magic is good. and
I'm a
evil,
good
just like
entity of
life
magic,
is.
though.
Second time Hellboy.
Oh, I can't wait
has
for
been
that.
brought up.
Oh, I can't wait for
Someone
that.
said something about it earlier in the chat room, and now Jonathan Moek is saying he's
Hellboy movies are
again.
my favorite
And
movies.
Constantine.
They better
I
have done it
don't
right.
know
It
about
has something
that.
to do with the war and him being.
There's
involved
some,
in
you know-
Yeah.
projects.
You can find. I think the truth is hidden in science fiction. I think there's more truth to stories like
That's why I
Hellboy
love
than you,
science fiction.
at least on a metaphorical level.
Dave,
All right, get
that's
on
how
with it.
you teach
I know.
me.
You guys, we gotta.
That's how you teach her.
Through science fiction, just on a side note, can we talk later?
Same.
Saying,
Well,
yeah,
we're talking
What about
space
20
and
minutes?
aliens and stuff. So
Yeah,
it doesn't
same.
get any more.
Later.
Okay. We're on the show.
I need actual.
So the
movies.
Nazis, they, we can't just link them through lineage, but they had all the
the
same
symbols.
markings going back to Babylon. The same eagle you find,
wow.
we now have it on our.
God.
This has followed them throughout history. They had it in Egypt, in Greece, in Rome. We're going to see a couple examples of those in a minute. And these are all Babylonian symbols, which the symbology began because supposedly the Tower of Babel, which was an ancient CERN.
Yeah, no, I really.
Kiss?
Kiss.
Oh, SS? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
so weird.
and then other
Gene
stories.
Simmons has
Random
other
music
motives on this earth. Paul
Alien.
Stanley is there to guide us the right way, and Gene Simmons is there to guide us the wrong way.
All
Paul
right,
Stanley only
so-
because he has our same birthday. He's the cool one. He's the good entity.
Who?
Paul Stanley has me and Jimmy's birthday.
All right, good.
Right. He's the good. Gene
in
Simmons
the
is
clear.
evil. Right.
All right.
Sorry, Gene. Just joking. Just kidding, Gene. I know Gene.
Daily Express. So they've had lots of finds like this. I could have put in
Are
lots
those
of these
huge?
things. So they found.
Oh my
We're
God.
still finding things. They found a little Nazi bunker, and they had
Find one of
these
those.
crazy, not deformed. I think we're looking at Nephilim. Look, a lot of
Oh.
people inside the Nazi party were like, "Look, Hitler
big
and,
are
and the
those?
upper step, they are interfacing with some kind of creature," and they thought that they were being bestowed with. We want you, Hitler, to rule the world. We want you to fulfill. And he believes it because it's looking like an
Right.
angel of light. He
Right.
bought into it. But these were just, again, I think these are the fallen angels that we're dealing with here.
Those
'cause-
two skulls right there?
yeah, because this
What in
has
the world? How big are they?
pretty big.
Wow.
Now, the skull record of what we've actually
my
found completely wipes out the theory of evolution. But, of course, the Smithsonian, they're in on
They're
it.
not that big. They're like regular size.
Well, there are skulls that are as big as this table.
right.
What's
I've
the-
seen
what's the one
the
above
Mayan
there that,
digs
like,
and
that's-
stuff.
It doesn't have any
Wow.
reference to how.
All
big
we
it is?
know is that these this is
demonic-looking
actual.
One of the demonic looking skulls.
All right, and what were the Nazis
Oh my
doing?
goodness.
They were tapping into a power source we ourselves have
The
not.
bell, like energy. Yeah.
This is magnetic propulsion. This is frequency vibration, and this is going to be some of the technology that is going to seem like it's from another world when Shaitan.
How do you not be scared when you're learning all this?
While I was learning it, I was definitely I was kind of nerved out.
Because it freaks me out. I'm not gonna lie. I'm freaked out when I learn.
Because
all this.
once you break through and
I
you
go home and I'm like,
it's like this. Do you remember being scared in grade school of anything? Second, third? Do you remember?
yeah, I
Okay.
was scared of God because they had the fear of God in me.
Hang on, let's go a little
Is that
smaller.
awful?
Do you ever remember being scared in third grade because you weren't going to get a project done and you freaked
Yes.
out and just okay?
Yeah.
Now, in your
course.
mind, that is like a horrible moment.
Yeah.
But with your wisdom and knowledge looking back, if you could have given yourself some advice, what would it have been? Kelly Jean,
Oh,
will
just
you
chill.
just
You'll be
relax? You're going to be fine.
Yeah.
All right? That's sort of what's going on here. But I was freaked out at first because until you realize this is what Jesus came to save us from, is all of this crap.
Right.
This is what he came to say. Because I used to believe in the bumper sticker that was Jesus saves, but Gretzky tips it in. I mean, that is all I knew about Jesus saving anything. He's a goalie for the Red Wings? Okay. That's what he came to save us from. Because
It's hard to put your full belief in anything when you're so scared, you know?
well,
Yeah. And it's so fantasy. It's so fantasy.
it's fantasy
like,
only from your perspective. From other perspectives in this world, this is what's reality,
magic,
and
weird
we
things to
live in
happen to me.
fantasy. All right, 1938 was War of the Worlds. 1942, the Battle of Los Angeles. We already talked about this one,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I listened to a news report from that event in 1942. I'm going to put it in the edited version. We're not going to listen to it today. But this was all
exactly,
over
like for people who are listening and they don't understand the Battle of Los Angeles, give them a quick rundown of that.
1942. It's about 2.5 months after Pearl Harbor. The West Coast is worried about a Japanese invasion. And there was an invasion on February something or other, 1942. It wasn't Japanese, though. It was a slow-moving triangular ship, exactly like the ship that appeared in the Phoenix Lights 50 years later. We send up our warplanes at the time, the P-39s, the P-40s, no effect. We've got anti-aircraft. We are pelting this thing. Everything's bouncing off. And this thing moves slowly at 30 miles an hour, and you can hear the actual guys in 1942. And to hear him talking, where it's not made up like the Orson Welles reporter, the War of the Worlds report. They're actually looking at something that was photographed and
So it was
seen.
live and it was actually happening.
This rocked.
All those people with the War of the Worlds are like,
Everyone
it's
thought
just
this
a joke.
was.
It'll be, they thought it was set up, probably.
They thought this was the Japanese.
Okay.
Is what they thought. But it was not the Japanese. So that's 1942. All right? Now remember, things start to happen
Fighters.
faster. You guys, I know you've heard of the band, but do
Yeah.
you know where their name came from?
No.
What are Foo Fighters, Eric?
The people that went up during the battle or the Los Angeles thing?
No, they were jet or not, airplane flyers or pilots for the Japanese.
Those are kamikazes, I think you're thinking of.
yeah, they were.
Foo Fighters
So they all sound like
was a
alcoholic
name
beverages.
given to these, again, these white formations of lights.
Okay.
Now, these are actual photographs here from World War II where our pilots are saying, look, man, these balls follow us. They're balls of light.
We're not allowed to talk about balls anymore, remember?
And you go back and you read reports from the mid-1940s. Our whole military is like, I don't know what these things are. They
Right.
don't seem to harm us. They just seem to observe us and follow us. They weren't messing up with, they were freaking some guys out. But number of photographs were taken, here's another one,
Whoa.
where
They don't
these-
look like lights in a lot of the pictures. They just look like,
I'm going to show
something.
you a modern day one caught on camera.
whoa.
Because the biblical explanation for what this is a demon.
Yeah.
They can disguise themselves as a ball of light, and it's kind of their most basic form. Okay, that's 1944. So the alien thing, it's starting to pick up some steam here. Let's watch this.
Okay.
So this was I want to say this was 2014, 2015. Do you guys know about the UFO sighting at the Temple Mount in Jerusalem?
Yeah.
You guys do know about
Yeah, I
this.
remember that.
Where it was filmed from multiple angles. This was not, it was either one of the most expensive hoaxes of all time, or
Right.
there really was something.
There was a weather balloon.
Have you guys seen
That's what
this?
they always
I
say.
think that's what they
A
call it.
weather
This
balloon.
is what I think the Foo Fighters were.
Oh my gosh.
All right. You guys watch this. I'll be back in less than 1 minute. and 30
OMG.
seconds.
OMG.
But look, this is how they move.
I
Wow.
remember this.
Temple of the Rock. They're right above it.
Yep. And it starts moving. Yep.
Wow.
but then it shoots right back up.
Ooh, it gets close,
Yeah, it
real
shoots right
close.
back up.
It's like reading data. That's crazy. I know, I wonder if they're supposed to be seen or if they're supposed
so
to
for all
try
you
to do it on
guys
the down low, or if they
watching,
care if
this
people
is,
see them or.
About a 4-year-old video of what David believes is the Foo Fighters. There
It did you see it flashed
Yeah,
and
took a
then went
picture-
up.
Took a picture and then went.
Right, data. Kellenese data.
And I think it's still there too.
Wow, I see it. I do see
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
the
Oh,
red
it's
dot.
flashing
Nuts.
like almost like a red.
Why
Do you
is
see
it
it's flashing? Oh,
why
because
is
there's
it in
more. It's a
multiple
huge.
spots?
Because
There's
it's
more.
a big figure and it's flashing all around the ship right now. That's what I think.
What the?
They're huge. They're like football, like a football field or more.
Right.
Yeah, they're not just little tiny balls. They're like a big ship.
Thank you. All right, so you guys, so that thing was filmed from multiple angles.
That was
What's that?
crazy.
Turn off.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And there's actually a lot of that. That one I liked in particular because it was filmed by people speaking different languages, and you can sync up. There was probably 15 cameras on
Right.
this
That was
thing,
just the one, right?
and I like it because when you have that much verification, it's hard to discount it.
Right.
And you only need to know one of them's true to know there is something going on. Now, who would have an interest in the Temple Mount? I mean, why is that such an important? Why would there be one there? Who knows?
I just like how before it sped up to the, shot out, it took a big flash. It was
All
like
right, and
taking
so
a-
you saw the speed with which it
Yeah,
can move.
it
It's
was
funny
like-
because in 1947, we sent an admiral, almost as famous as Schwarzkopf,
Yeah.
Admiral Byrd. We sent him to Antarctica on an exploration mission, which for some reason had 4,000 armed soldiers, military aircraft, battleships. This was not an exploratory mission.
Right.
When he
It's
disembarks,
Transformers.
something happened in Antarctica. Now, if you believe his private diary, that story is fascinating. But essentially, he's like, there's an advanced civilization down there, and we need our national security. We do not need to worry about the Russians or anyone. What is down there is the big problem because they could get from pole to pole in a minute.
Yeah.
Like that's how.
It's like
that's the
electromagnetic fields, maybe. Who knows how they operate?
Well, I think these are. I mean, what do we really know what's in Antarctica? And why
Yeah.
why does the nation's naval fleets
So
guard it?
Claudio Marti
Yeah.
says if we expose the cancer, we can eradicate all the symptoms of the cancer. If you can't go through the front door, then go through the back door. Support 9/11 truth. Support 9/11 truth and Palestine.
Insert backdoor
No,
joke here. Didn't.
Claudio, good man. I love that dude. He is a big time 9/11 Truth guy. And
Thank you
9/11
for watching.
Truth is a great place to start because there's so much documentation on it. There's only two types of people that will not get 9/11. Just the completely ignorant and helpless.
Right.
I mean, if you can't think for yourself on such a level where you can't see what really happened on 9/11, your soul's fried and you have no chance.
Glenn DeMason's also listening. He says
Oh my goodness.
it was Professor John E.
No.
Mack. He died in
He's got
2004.
knowledge.
That wasn't
John
even KJ.
Mack.
This is Sid.
Thank you, GRD or GDR, Glenn.
He's got knowledge. Though.
GRD, yes.
Yeah.
Our number one watcher. All right, go on. We only
Hermann
got 10 minutes.
Oberth, German-sounding guy. That's because he was
Dr. Urman Oberth.
another Nazi out of the Project Paperclip. Here's what he said in
looks happy.
1954. It is my thesis that flying saucers are real and that they are spaceships from another solar system. It's very important that these spaceships and all this technology and these creatures, they've got to be from another solar system. Because
Yeah.
if they're from here, the gig's up, and we know that they're demons.
Right.
So it's got to be believable. So we're going to need some really reputable agencies like NASA to document.
So do
some
you
of
think
it
there's
for
other
us.
civilizations out in the universe that aren't evil?
I have
Is that-
no
I mean,
idea.
is that what that article kind of insinuates?
Look, I don't know what the universe is anymore, and I used to study astronomy like the Nazis. It just was
Right.
so fast. I used to be able to go.
Because
you
you
know,
got to
it's-
tie it into like real life things and
I
like,
was
things you can
fascinated by.
believe. Yeah,
And
right.
I used to have questions about the sun, even when I was like 9 years old. I'm like, gravity is what keeps us in place. However, when we go 30 miles into space, gravity just suddenly stops and then it picks up again. I mean,
Right.
I couldn't understand. And how does something
Right.
with a surface temperature of 5,000 degrees heat us up 93 million miles away?
I know.
It was, I don't know.
You gotta touch it, feel it, believe it.
All right, so from the 40s to the 70s, now we're on this UFO kick. I mean, it
Right.
really gets going after World War II, but they're all over the headlines. These are reputable papers. Now, the thing is these sightings still happen, but now we've been conditioned to keep them to ourselves, brush them on it.
Right.
You don't bring this up if you want to have a career as a pilot.
Oh, I do.
How's your pilot career
My
going
pilot
so
career
far?
is like amazing. I'm rich, seen it all.
All right. So we got CERN, formed 1954. And CERN, we can link to NASA. They have the same occult symbology, the
The
same.
snake eating
So it's
itself.
the 50s again.
Right as we were getting subliminal messages that you saw, Kelly, saying, trust your government,
Yeah.
trust us. We're trusting everything they do.
That was one of the craziest episodes. that we had.
What do you?
I don't think you were here when it showed the
But I
subliminal
need to know what's
messages.
going on.
You, we'll catch you up later.
We'll send you a link to the
All right.
subliminal messages in the things we watched. It was insane, that episode.
So here we've got a scene from Arrival. And
Snake eating itself
yeah,
again.
the same
Yep.
Ouroboros. It's in the movie. The same predictive programming. It's totally in play. So I'm linking the symbology that NASA uses, the Ouroboros, to the modern film. And the guys that finance these movies are the guys that are in this Illuminati. These are the bad guys.
Wow.
All right, so we know NASA's heavily into the occult. And everything, the occult really, they get all of their symbols from they get them from Babylon, Egypt, Greece, and Rome. I mean, Satan's big kingdoms. That's where all the pyramids and the snakes, that's where they all come from.
Right.
And those were his kingdoms, which is, again, further verification that maybe what God told us is true. And so, we've got the Apollo program, Mercury, Gemini. These are all NASA programs.
Yes. Because you've researched this. You have a lot of opinions. Yes. Yeah.
So the Apollo and Mercury, you're bringing that up. because
So
of
here's
the
some
space program.
logos of Apollo. These are very occultic. Does this one remind anyone of anything, by the way?
Twin Towers.
Yeah, funny. But the Gemini missions were in the
Wow.
early 60s,
And
I
look
believe.
at where the stars were.
Mercury,
It's
another
wild.
another Greek god.
Wow.
Orion.
It always
Orion,
has that circle going into itself.
very
Always.
important. Here now, I mean, these are modern
This
day.
is an open circle.
Osiris Rex, because remember,
What does that say?
Osiris was an Egyptian god. Now, this Osiris is sort of like the equivalent of the Shiva. So you got Osiris and who are Isis and thank you, Set.
Good job. Look at the big
Jeez,
green
so
on
I
Because
Custer.
the Bible, Satan's a counterfeiter.
Horace.
Satan's a counterfeiter, so he takes the
Yeah.
Trinity and he applies it to all of his kingdoms. And there will be a Trinity also in his New World Order, the false prophet, Satan, and the Antichrist. Okay, so there's a lot of stargazing, zodiac stuff. I'm not going to get into why, but the Bible says do not mess with that stuff. It's a pathway to screw
Really?
yourself over. I'll tell you about
Can
that.
we get into that when we do aliens?
We're going to discuss it for sure.
Good, because I would like to know.
So let's not get too far into this, but this is an Egyptian
Wow.
something or other. I think this was carved on
Their
the
belly
wall.
buttons were portals to another world.
But this looks like the Shiva, Brahma, Vishnu triumvirate.
Right.
All right, now we get into the 60s. Man walks on the moon, and he collects rocks. How funny. That was on the front. Of all the things they did, they collected rocks. New York Times. Because the Quran is about to be, the prophecy is about to be fulfilled. This was a very big moment in Muslim history.
Wow.
How funny. That name Rockefeller, they always show up in just the ugliest places, and it's always one of their family members.
Isn't across the NBC in New York, isn't it the Rockefeller Plaza?
Rockefeller Center, and they've
Center,
got
yeah.
Prometheus, another Greek god that is there.
Oh.
Oh man.
Like,
So-
ah.
And the Rockefellers, remember, these are the guys that pulled Aaron Russo aside to say, hey, we're going to fake 9/11 so we can ultimately chip the population. Do you want to be one of us?
No.
I just saw an
Aaron
article.
Russo said no.
You guys, I just saw an article
and
that
then
said
he went,
that we're
he
not.
went public, and he was dead by the end of the year.
I just saw an article that said we're not
I
populating
say
as fast
no,
as
but
they
I'm
want
gonna
to
run away to
replenish.
Africa like Dave Chappelle did, where nobody can catch me.
Like I just saw an
Why-
article. You
Have you ever
guys,
seen him?
I have, and I love that man.
I
Hit it.
just saw an
Smart.
article that said that we're not replenishing the
He knows
population
that you
like
can
we're
only
supposed
get
to,
so
and that they're worried
successful
about that.
without becoming a target.
Right, if
And
I-
he
it's
dipped
like
How would
out
they be
right at
worried?
the-
And who is
right at
they?
the exact moment, the perfect moment.
Depending on who you
and
listen
he
to,
came
we have
back,
an
and then he had a lot to say. Alive, most importantly.
Like how would we not be
We
replenishing
only got a couple minutes.
the population?
Finish this off.
Oh, no,
If our
absolutely. I
birth
feel
rate
like
is
they-
not higher than I think it's like 1.2%,
goal?
it's not enough to sustain.
Isn't that what they wouldn't want? There's 8
All right.
conversations going on at once right here. It
I know,
doesn't
too
make any
many, too
sense.
many.
Yeah.
Let's keep this to NASA. What do you guys see here?
The
A
snake.
V,
That's
a
one.
snake, stars, a circle.
The Ouroboros.
Yeah, of course, but the V involved in the,
Does that look like a T? Like a, in a lot of that's a T in a lot in cursive.
it could be, well,
I'm just saying, if it is a
Okay.
T, do you think it's supposed to be a serpent's tongue though, or do you think it's just a
it
red
kind
V?
of looks like that.
I mean,
Sort of
why
looks
why
like
do you why do you think that's there?
Oh, I don't know. Ask Sydney.
No, just tell us. please.
Well, my opinion of why it's there, and believe me, logos are a very important thing to any organization.
Yeah.
That is a serpent's tongue. This is Satan putting
Oh.
his. I mean,
Is
look,
that- All right.
that is what I think we're looking at.
I want to
Because
just say thank you
NASA
to these people who've been
If
watching.
that's a
and,
T,
commenting
NASA
and
then
stuff.
is an anagram for Satan.
Wow.
And he's
Ooh.
double marking himself because this
Ooh.
is what a serpent's tongue looks like. And we're going to back up the fact that evil is. Oh, not only this, just real quick. NASA is now reporting on. This is a NASA satellite image of these UFOs that are in the shape of flying, floating
Wow, weird.
snakes.
So weird.
Now,
We should say thank you to everybody
We're
who's
gonna-
watching because we
we'll
have to
get
end
into
the
that. Like,
show.
we're going to keep going down NASA because we're now going to, next week,
Well,
part
it all
4,
ties
we're
in,
going to
so.
talk about what is in our skies.
Okay.
What does NASA seem to be inferring that's in our skies? At the end of the day, guys, you don't need to worry about all this evil. Get good with Jesus Christ, and you will not have to worry about it. And he literally will put in you.
Stay with us.
One
learn
of the
with
ways
us.
you will know you're saved, truly, is you're not going to be freaked out by this
And you
stuff.
know what, you guys? I'm going down this path.
You
along
are.
with
You're like
everybody
you're
here,
the
and-
live guinea pig. So
right.
is
And
everybody.
so you guys join in, go down the path with us, and thank you for tuning in this week. And we will hopefully see you guys next week. And make sure to watch our edited video. We'll be posting it like halfway through the week.
Or
And that's
Wednesday.
like that's
That's
the
all.
end of
That's
it.
it, folks.
Yes. Thank you for tuning in, you guys. We love you.
All right, kids. We'll
Love
see
you
you guys next
guys.
week.